Hello, everyone. It's Richard Lewis here again on the Rivalry CS channel, doing another interview with a high-profile member of the Counter-Strike community. This time, I'm going to be talking to someone I've known for years, since he was a boy, really, back when he first started playing Counter-Strike Source competitively. Someone who has gone from being a player in Source to CSGO to now being a member of the broadcast talent as an analyst, and now is a full-time streamer and a homeowner as well, which we'll talk about the adult shit in a bit. It is, of course, Pimp. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's good to talk to you again.
It's been a while, hasn't it? Getting old.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Well, look, let's talk about the grown-up shit then.
Okay.
Because I know, I know about the stress of buying a place and all of that. You know, it's one of the biggest commitments you'll ever make in your life, but also it's probably one of the most important ones you'll end up doing. It's super stressful. I don't think a lot of people realize like everything that goes into buying a house. It should just be as easy as, hey, I've got the money, you've got the house, here we go. But there's all banks involved and realtors involved and all sorts of crazy shit. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I imagine it's been eating away at your psyche a little bit. It's a tough time.
Sure has. It is very stressful, and I think you're spot on when you're portraying it as like it's the commitment that is stressful. You know, dealing with the bank, dealing with all the kind of stuff of the process of buying a house. You know, you have to go through it. Everyone has to, so that's fine. It's just I feel like it's the first time I've committed myself that much to something. Right? I buy a place here in the city. I've been living in the past 4 years, ever since I got back from Los Angeles in my liquid days, and it's just a great place, and this is where I want to live, and especially in this time with the whole Corona situation, with my life as it's been the last 3 years, where I've been traveling 200 to 240 days a year. The fact that I now own a place that I can call my home, potentially at least, is something that I've been looking forward to, but also something that stresses me out, because it's as said, it's a commitment that it's been going well for me, both in terms of working as a broadcast talent, working as a player. I've never had, any real struggles in life in terms of paying my rent and all that kind of stuff. But now finally I feel like the commitment is made, and now I have to earn money. Now it's not an option anymore. Now it's not, me saving up money for a rainy day. Now it's me having a big chunk of money going out of the window to the loan, I guess, every month, and the whole stress of that and facilitating your life as a streamer, and now as a broadcast talent as well, compared to as a player. It's just a new experience for me. Being 25 years old, I think it's good for me, but it's a bit early compared to some of my friends, at least.
Well, you can't say that you haven't earned it. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that kind of get lucky in esports, right place, right time. And they blow up and they make a lot of cash very, very quickly. And that cash sets them up for life. I mean, that hasn't been your story. Wasn't that long ago, you were selling hot dogs, like literally. And, I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. I think there's a lot of people that maybe don't have that kind of like lived experience, that life experience of going out and having shit jobs. And I think it's super important. If I had a kid, I'd insist they had a crap job, because I think it really gives you an appreciation when you land on your feet.
I 100% agree. I've been working my entire life, more or less. In Denmark, you can start working when you're 14 years old. Started as a pharmacy delivery guy, so I delivered stuff for the pharmacy to elder people. Been working in a grocery store. That was in a time where I also tried to make it as a professional Counter-Strike player in Counter-Strike Source, as you mentioned in the intro. So I've been working ever since I was 14 years old as a dishwasher as well, not to be forgotten. So I always had it in me. I always want to work for my money. I don't want to sit back and just get paid to do nothing. Fun little story about the whole hot dog thing is that I did sell hot dogs. It was 2-3 times a month only. It was at a football stadium. So whenever there was a home game at the stadium, I was hired in to be there and serve drinks and serve hot dogs, basically. It was at a time where I was still on a contract with Liquid, but the whole thought of just sitting at home doing absolutely nothing and getting paid for it, I just couldn't have it. I just couldn't have it at all. So I had to go out there and earn some, in Denmark we call it honest money. Had to earn some real money in that sense in order to feel good about it. And that's why I took that job, and that's why I did it. It was with a friend of mine as well, so it's a social thing as well involved into it. But I've had it ever since I was a kid. 14 years old. I want to work for the money I earn, and I definitely don't want to get anything served on a silver platter. if anything, that'll make me feel bad.
Yeah. So you've officially retired. That's one where you won't be making money anytime in the future is by playing. So I want to talk a little bit about that because I saw the reaction on Reddit, and a lot of people, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about Reddit as well. People aren't the smartest. There's a lot of people going, but he hasn't been on a team, for 2-3 years or however long it's been. So why is he retiring? I mean, it's kind of, if you look at the Colin Kaepernick situation, he hasn't had a team since the 49ers. It doesn't mean he's not in contention. He's saying he wants to play, so, and I'm sure had there been offers that made sense for you, you would have took them up, because I mean, obviously like you say, you're 25, you're not like some 35-year-old guy that's clinging on to past glories. You still technically had a lot of playing years ahead of you. So what was the sort of final straw in deciding that you were going to actually retire from competitive play? Because it's a big decision and a lot of players struggle to make it.
Yeah, I think you're right when you're saying that. I mean, the right offer never really occurred to me. When I left Liquid, there was a lot of very interesting talks and interesting offers. I'm not going to sit here and drop any names out of the respect to the current owners and to the current teams, but there was offers that was paying me much more money than I was earning in Liquid. And I could have said yes to those offers. But at the time being, when I left Liquid, I basically told the Liquid management that I'm here in LA and I'm here for as long as you need me for the contract, but I would like if you guys find someone else to play for you, because I'm not motivated to do the job anymore. And I think that over time, the team will feel that, and over time, the team will suffer if there's a part of the team who's not motivated. I guess a great, comparison to that is I remember playing with Hiko in Liquid, and that was in his later stages of his career, right? And you could feel that Hiko was not always motivated as he used to be. And for the team dynamics, when you're like 4 guys who working hard for something, you're practicing, you're putting in a lot of hours on your own playing deathmatch, and then you have that one part of the team who's he's no longer motivated, right? He's no longer wanted as bad as the rest of the guys. That hurts the dynamic of the team. And I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the guy on the team who was dragging the entire team environment down. So I told them to find someone else, and they did relatively quickly. I think they got Twist signed a month or a month and a half after I told them that I was going home. And despite getting a lot of decent offers back then, both from North American squads and Danish squads, and also some international lineups, I basically decided to take at least 3 months where I didn't play competitive Counter-Strike. I just wanted to take a break and really figure out what is it that I wanted to do with my life. And that was the period where I worked as a hot dog seller. That was the period when I started full-time streaming for the first time. I kind of like got a taste of that life as well. And that was a great learning experience for me. And then I was offered by DreamHack to do an event as an analyst. And I thought to myself, again, why not? Why not try it out? The worst thing that can happen is that I spend a weekend in France and I find out that's not for me. Luckily, it turned out to be something I really liked, and I think I had a flair for it as well. Throughout my entire career, I've always been doing interviews. I've always been sort of like the front guy for my teams, despite me being a fat little kid at that point as well. So I've never had a problem, being in front of a camera. And working as an analyst was something I liked, and that has basically been my career since. In that period of 2 years, there's been a few offers, there's been a few decent teams, and there's been a lot of shit teams as well, to be absolutely straight up honest. And none of those offers were really intriguing to me. There was a period where I was playing as a stand-in for Astralis, where I was close. I was close, and I was basically supposed to play. I think it was the Blast tournament in Copenhagen with them, or the Mexico finals in the ECS season or something like that. But unfortunately for me, they decided to go with Rubino instead of me. And that was like the one shot I had of getting, a foot inside the door again. And ever since, it's just been some tier 2, tier 3 teams, and that has never really been. It never really tickled the right places, so to speak. If I play and if I invest myself into something, I do it 100%. And I knew that I couldn't invest myself 100% into a team that is just a top 30 or top 40 team in the world, despite the money being good, and despite the money being way, way better than I earned on streaming and sometimes doing the analysis jobs. I just didn't want it, right? It wasn't something that motivated me. So that's why I never took one of those offers. And the final in the coffin, I guess I just got to a point where the last year I haven't had an offer I found remotely interesting. So I enjoy streaming. I enjoy doing the broadcast talent work. So I figured let's just put a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it must be weird though. I kind of feel like this is just my opinion, but of all the Danish players that, have kind of come and gone, it does seem very strange that you were one of these players that, after Team Liquid, like you say, the offers that you probably expected to get kind of weren't there because, going right the way back to Western Wolves, you've played with every top Danish player pretty much at some point in your career, and it's, and not as a passenger, not as a stand-in, not as somebody that didn't make a contribution, actually as a core member of each of those teams. Western Wolves, Copenhagen Wolves, Reason Gaming, Dignitas, SK Gaming. You've played pretty much with every top tier Danish player. So why do you think it is then that for whatever reason there wasn't a place for you among one of those teams?
I think a big part of the reason was that, as you said, I played with a lot of different Danish players, basically all of them. I think the only player that I haven't played with at any point was Device, and I played a national squad tournament with him in Serbia where we won. But apart from that, I've been part of a lineup with Glaive, been part of a lineup with Sipnix, Dupree, and all the Astralis guys and all the North players for that sake as well. And in that time, it's safe to say that I wasn't the most enjoyable teammate to have on your team. Right. I was very immature. I was young. As you said, I was not a player that was not contributing. I knew I contributed a lot, and I was arguably one of the 5 best players in Denmark throughout the majority of that period, at least, and also had periods where I felt that I was the best. Me and AC in Dignitas had a really good period of half a year where we were basically, according to me at least, 2 of the best players in Denmark and also 2 of the best players in the world at that certain timing. But it also came with the price that my ego, I think, grew a little bit too big, or grew a little bit too big. And when I went to Team Liquid, that was sort of like my redemption period. That was the new version of Jacob coming out, so to speak. In Liquid, I behaved. I think I was a good teammate. I was basically being thrown around as this support player. I came over there, I replaced Simple, right? I was basically being put into Simple's roles, and you think to yourself, all right, that's going to be fun. He has a lot of impact. He has a lot of responsibility in the game, but after a month, then some player didn't want to play Ivy on Train, and the new guy, of course, would have to be the guy, sacrificing. So I play Ivy on Train. Then a month after, a new guy don't want to play Long on Dust 2. New guy sacrificing. That was basically the Liquid career for me. I think even if you look back at the statistics, I think I was the second best performing player after Elish throughout my period in Liquid, but I never, ever got any credit for how well I performed, despite being constantly thrown around in different roles and different positions. And that was something that like it didn't motivate me. Like I was really trying to be a great teammate. I was trying to be a guy that wouldn't whine too much, that wouldn't rage too much, that wouldn't cause any troubles within the lineup. Everyone had their periods, of course. Everyone had their incidents in Liquid, but overall, I was a much better person and a much better teammate in Liquid. And it didn't do anything good for me. I didn't get any recognition. I didn't get any good offers out of it, and that really didn't motivate me. That was like a very empty feeling, I feel, because I really tried a lot to be a great version of Jacob. So when I got back to Denmark, the Astralis guys, of course, no need to change on that roster. MSL and I had an outfall in Dignitas we never really fixed. And back then, MSL was sort of like the leading figure outside of Astralis, so he wouldn't offer me a spot in his team. And the offers I got outside of the 2 best teams in Denmark wasn't interesting to me, neither financially or playing wise. So I think a lot has to do with the timing, and a lot has to do with the past that I have played with all these guys. And back then I wasn't the most enjoyable teammate to be with. And that stigma sort of sticks to you, despite that changing over years. And same goes for, a guy like Device. I remember him back in the old days, and you do too. He was not the most pleasant guy to play with, whereas today I think he's one of the best teammates you can ever ask for. Same goes on for Dupree. I think that he's had his rough periods in his career, but today he's probably one of the best teammates out there. Unfortunately for me, the timing didn't work out. So when I got back from Liquid, there was not a spot open. And when I got the chance to play stand-in for Astralis, I did well in the 4 games I played for them. But it was after half a year where I didn't play at all. So they didn't really want to take that risk and that chance of bringing me back into the competitive environment. And that's basically when I missed that window of opportunity, I think. So I don't want to blame it on being unlucky or, timing, but I will say that there's a part of me being a little bit unlucky and the timing not being, the perfect one, and also the fact that I probably had a relatively negative stigma around me from my very early days of playing Counter-Strike when I was 15, 16 years old, and I was a little, a little threat to play with, to be honest.
Well, yeah, the MSL thing's what really surprised me.
Yeah,
I remember going to events, way back when. Always you two guys together. Always you two
yeah.
guys in teams together. Was always you two guys going out drinking together at the bar after the matches, after the tournament was over. And this carried through right to CSGO, where you played alongside him in the Dignitas line and stuff like that. So you said you had a falling out. And you haven't fixed it. I mean, I find this amazing because you guys were really good friends and teammates for years. So, from your side of things, your perspective, what happened and why is it unfixable?
It's not that we're not like we can't talk today. I think me and MSL has a decent professional relationship. But as you said, it went from us being best buddies, basically me, MSL, and one of his friends called Nille, who played with us back in Western Wolves.
Yep, remember.
The three of us were like more like this. You couldn't tear us apart no matter what. Then Nille had an outfall. He got this famous VAC ban. He couldn't play competitive Counter-Strike anymore. So it was just me and MSL. And as you said, we stuck together. I think over the years, we played together maybe 4 or 5 years in total. I've been eating dinners at his house with his mother. I've been in his, on a vacation with him in one of his summer places in Denmark. And I think over the years, we just grew apart. I think he was a very stubborn person. He wanted it his way. And back then I wanted it my way. And at the end of it, it turned out in Dignitas to be this sort of like battle between the two of us, right? On the server, playing wise, skill wise, no doubt you can't even argue that I'm a much better player than MSL. He contributed with him being the in-game leader, so it's sort of like the power battle between the two of us. The team had to choose between was, do we want to stick with our in-game leader or do we want to replace Jacob as a player? And I think it's always easier to replace a player. You can always find another skilled player. It's much harder to find another skilled in-game leader, especially back in the days. So I lost that battle. I lost that power battle, and I don't like it. I don't like it to sound like it was a battle that was going on and it was either me or him. But at the end of the day, one of us had to go at a certain point, and that ended up being me. And that was sort of like the time where I had to realize, okay, Jacob, MSL is not the greatest guy to play with either, but there's so much stuff you could have done to be a better teammate. There's so much stuff you could have done to avoid that from being a situation where one of you had to go. And I think that was the time when I realized that if I want to have a career within Counter-Strike and if I want to continue playing the game at a high level, I have to change. And that's sort of like when I tried to redeem myself in SK Gaming, coming in being a much better version of myself, a much better teammate than getting the offer from Team Liquid, who just finished second at the major in Cologne, I believe. That was sort of like a highlight in my career. I was like, okay, you did it. You're good enough to play for one of the best teams in the world. I know that for a fact. And now you're also a good enough teammate to be part of one of those teams. And that's why it was such a big loss for me when I got to Liquid and I felt that the lack of motivation from some of my teammates and the lack of willingness to let me shine and let the team shine, it just killed me, being away from friends, family and everything, living in Los Angeles and feeling that the guy next to you, he only wanted, 70% of what you want. It simply wasn't a solution for me. So it sucks that me and MSL had to go apart, but I think it was also sort of like a kick in the butt to me that I don't care what he's going to do with his life. I don't care if he changes, but I have to change now as a guy. I have to change as a player if I want to continue having a career within Counter-Strike.
So, you talked a bit about getting your first analysis job with DreamHack. Obviously, it's a huge kind of, different type of discipline. It's a huge shift. Not all players can go and be analysts. I think a lot of them find out actually just how much goes into an analysis and that it isn't necessarily the easier job and it's not necessarily going to be enjoyable or fun. A lot of the time you might enjoy what you do on a broadcast, but you might not enjoy the other 70% of what the job entails. Did you know what you were getting yourself into when you said yes to that job?
Not at all. I had no idea. Not at all. And you're spot on. You said you wanted to talk about Reddit at some point during this interview. Like one of the things that the average Redditor don't get at all is what it actually requires to be an analyst. Like what is part of the job title. They see us on broadcast for 5-10 minutes between the games. That's it. There's so much stuff going on behind. Being an analyst is not all about being smart on the game. I think that a lot of players have the understanding of the game in order to be an analyst. They don't they don't really have the necessary skills to be, presentable on a camera, to be able to work within a flow of a host, to be able to work within the flow of a producer. He wants this, you want this. There's so much stuff going on when you watch, an analysis segment that people don't see behind the closed doors. And maybe that's our fault that we don't communicate that well enough to the public so they actually know what it is they're watching. But I had no idea what I went into. As I said, I've never had a problem being on camera, and that part of it is by far the easiest part. But being able to work within a flow, being able to build up a synergy with your colleagues, with your host, with your producer, all that kind of stuff, in order to maximize the show and the value that you put into the show is the rough part, I feel. Then comes all the traveling. We travel more than the players. We work more than the players as well when you're a player at a tournament. And this is not to say anything bad about that, but you play one game, you prepare for one game, then you play for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and then you have 2 or 3 hours where you maybe prepare for the next game, or you do whatever right with your life. But you have quite amount of spare time or time off during an event where you can go out, you can go for a dinner. When I started to work as an analyst, our days were 12, 14 hours long. Like I woke up, went to work, and I went to bed. That's it. So doing that for 200 days a year, that was mentally a big task, and much harder than playing any tournament than I've ever done. Staying sane and staying in the game, while also having to be presentable on camera, while also having to be, flexible in your version and in your vision of the game. If I work with one colleague, he has a take on the game that is different from mine, and we still have to have some sort of like synergy. And then next moment I work with another colleague where it's something else. There's so much stuff going into it, and I think that, being the perfectionist that I am, is the rough part about it. I want the show to be as good as possible. I want everyone to shine on the disc. I don't want to be. It's not a competition, right? We're not competing against each other. It's not like when me and Chet is on a disc. It's not like we're competing to be the best analyst on the disc. We're trying to make each other good. We're trying to play each other good all the time, and that is the rough part about being an analyst.
Yeah, and look, I'll get to the sort of public facing aspect of it, because one thing I've noticed about you, and it's interesting you say that, we're not competing. I mean, I'll be fair. I've worked with a lot of broadcast talent as an analyst, as a host, as a caster. Yeah, sometimes there is a competitive element, even with people that you're working with. They want to get all of their points in. They want their points to be the best. They want to have a little bit more limelight than you. It even goes to caster pairings. They want to, get the good call out and take over when an epic play is happening. And there's a little bit of, it is a competition to some people. Like, and it doesn't necessarily make for the best broadcast, but equally, I would say some of the best talent we've had, some of them are a little bit like that. So one of the things that I've noticed about you when you're on the desk, and the community misinterpret what it is, but you do seem to be very agreeable and very you don't like to have conflict, which is interesting, because obviously I remember you from way back when you used to be very vocal and didn't mind conflict at all. And I think when I watch a pimp segment on a desk, generally you'll take a point that somebody else has made and you'll build on it, or you'll take an observation and you'll have the more charitable interpretation of it, rather than say, no, listen, I completely disagree. I think he played shit. You don't seem to be that kind of guy. There isn't a bad version of Pimp on the desk. There isn't like a mean version of you. Is that something you're consciously doing?
No, I'd say both yes and no. I think that was one of my weaknesses in the beginning. I was too polite. I was too friendly, and I think a lot of guys who are trying out to be an analyst for the first few times, you see a lot of the new upcoming talent. They're polite, they're friendly. They don't want to, they don't want to step anyone on their toes in the beginning, and I think that's fair enough. I think the last couple of years, especially last year, I turned into the version of Jacob Pimp on the desk that I want to be. If I think someone is saying something that is not right, or something that I disagree with, I will 100% call it out. I will 100% say it if I can. It also depends on, the flow of the show. The producer has something lined up for us. Is there time for me to disagree with this guy? Most of the time we have like a very strict rundown of what we can do, what we can talk about, and how much time we have to do so. So it's about picking your fights as well. And I think I've gotten much better at that. I think my biggest strength as an analyst actually is that I don't hold back. If I think a team has played a bad game, I will say in a polite way, of course, that they played a bad game. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I have such a, like, we have a sports commentator in Denmark that is called Jan Mølby. He's a former Liverpool player in football, and he's always very, like, he sounds negative, right? He always talks negative about people, about players, about teams that does not do well, and that gives the stigma to him that he's a negative guy. Well, in fact, what you don't listen to when you listen to him commentating a game, or when you listen to his analysis after a football game, is that, yes, he'll tell you that this team sucks, and that will offend you because, oh no, you're watching the game because you're a Chelsea fan and he just said that Chelsea is a bad team or they played a horrible game. Then you'll have all the Chelsea fans coming at you saying that you're always so negative, you're always so, against Chelsea, blah, 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 blah. Next game, Chelsea may play Manchester United, and Manchester United are the ones that are shit. So Jan Mølby will go, all right, Manchester United didn't play a great game, they did this wrong, blah, 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 and Chelsea played a great game, kudos to them. You never listen to the good stuff anyone says about your team. You always listen to the negative stuff. And now all of a sudden, the Chelsea fans still hate you from last time you were negative about them. And now all of a sudden, all the Manchester United fans are on your back as well because you said they were bad in a game. And I think I've suffered a lot from that because I don't hold back. In Denmark, I have a reputation for being against Astralis. People think I hate Astralis. People think that I'm a Liquid fanboy. People think that I love Liquid way more than Astralis. Whereas if you ask some of the Americans, they will tell me you're the biggest Danish fanboy ever. Every time Astralis is playing, you're talking good about them. In fact, when Astralis is playing as the best team in the world, I'll be standing on my desk and I'll acknowledge the fact that they're the best team in the world. Just like when Liquid was the best team in the world, and I acknowledge the fact that Liquid was much better playing than Astralis. At some point, you just get to a point where both of these fan base hate you because that's just the way it goes.
Yep.
Other analysts will go a different route, whereas they always point out the good things. They always point out, Astralis they maybe lose this game. They didn't play well, but they did this good, they did that good, and it was okay. They'll get it next time. And that's sort of like, to me, that's sugarcoating it, right? That's not being honest. Totally. That's the thing, right? And it's not being honest to the job. So I agree with you. If you would have said that to me, if you would pose the question you did to me right here 2 years ago, I would be 100% agreeing with you. But I think the last year in particular, I've grown into a guy on the desk that get recognized for always telling the opinion that I have. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, whether you are a Brazilian fanboy of MIBR or you are an Astralis fan from Astralis. If they play a horrible game, I'll tell you exactly why they played a horrible game. I'll tell you exactly what the mistakes were, and I'll tell you what I really feel about that. And same goes on for North, for example. They've been shitting the bed for a long, long time now. And all North fans in Denmark hate me because I constantly point it out. So I think that it's wrong in the sense that I used to be like that, but now I think that's one of my strengths as an analyst, that I never hold back. I always give you what I see, and I think what I see, of course, is true to me. And if I were to criticize some of my colleagues without mentioning any names, then sugarcoating it, not really being honest to what you really feel about a certain game or a certain situation is not only, you're not only lying to yourself, but you're also lying to the audience out there who tends to believe what you're saying because they have to, right? They have no way of knowing that you're saying one thing and thinking something else. So I don't want to be that guy who's basically lying to the crowd out there. If I feel something about a game, or if I see something, basically that's what I'm going to put out there as well.
So it's a weird one, isn't it? That, like you say, I think there was a long period of time where you kind of were, like I say, Mr. Nice Guy. And there was this weird change, like just in community perception. I can't pinpoint when it happened, but you were Mr. Nice Guy on the desk. You were the hardworking, hot dog salesman. You were an occasional streamer where you would always do these informative, educational streams, essentially trying to give out little tips, things to make people better, but like in little digestible segments. Usually when you try them in a game, you'd get absolutely fucking wrecked in the middle of them, and it would be great comedy. And everybody loved you, and your stream was blowing up. Everyone was saying, oh my God, this is like great. This is like, we don't have many dedicated CS streamers. And then I don't know what happened. Like suddenly you started getting criticism on the desk. Suddenly people started criticizing your stream. Suddenly people started saying you're toxic, and that's the buzzword that the kids like to use. And I'm watching your stream, and I'm watching you on a desk, and I just don't see any of this. Like it's really bizarre. It's almost like a mass psychosis has gone underway on Reddit, and they're saying things that don't quite match up to reality. So let's just go back. Like, what do you think has changed to make the community so vitriolic in their dislike of you at the moment?
I think it's a change of personality in the sense that, like you described, for an example, you were used to see me being Mr. Nice Guy on the disc. All of a sudden, I'm tearing down North after playing a horrible tournament. Well, all the North fans then are not going to be wild with me, right? So it's slowly but surely has been built up now that there's a certain fraction of each, let's say, each country or each fan base around the world that does not like me, right? And as soon as that builds up to a point where that's going to take over, the majority or the guys that are, either they, like, one thing is to like me and one thing is to support me a lot, and one thing is just to think that I'm all right at what I do, right? But the minority will always be the loudest. That's just the way it is. If you really dislike someone, you're always gonna see that, because they're gonna be the ones writing hateful comments. They're gonna be the ones telling you to go fuck yourself. They're gonna be the ones telling you to go die somewhere place that is very, very cold. And you receive those messages or see those comments all the time on HLTV or Reddit for that matter. So you think to yourself, everyone hates me, there's no one back who likes me, but that's not the case, right? So I have to mentally really, I wouldn't say struggle, but it's been a fight, that I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm not Mr. Nice Guy anymore, and I'm definitely not being perceived as one either, but I'm not as bad as they make me sound either. I really don't think so. I think it's a balance, and I think I may have missed out on the balance a little bit, where I'm taking fights I don't necessarily should be taking, especially with Reddit. There was quite a long period where I would read Reddit and I would use some of those comments as a reference to my work, and I would go on them. I would basically call them out for saying, what you're writing right here in this paragraph, that's straight up bullshit. That's lie. It has nothing to do with what I do as an analyst. It has nothing to do with anything, but that doesn't matter, because if I do that, then I'll come out and I'll sound like a whiny bitch, or I will engage with a guy who, like, his goal with that comment is maybe not to get my attention, but his goal is to make as many people dislike me as possible. And he's always going to find something in the message that I give him back that he then can use. So if he ignores 90% of basically what I'm telling him in a response, as long as he can find 10% that can be misinterpreted, then I'm fucked, then I'm not winning that one. And I think I took too many fights in the beginning that I shouldn't have taken, and that's basically ruined my relationship with Reddit, if you can say so, or with HLTV for that matter, because I do it still to this day. If you come into my stream and if the first thing you do in my chat is to be a disrespectful idiot, then I will straight off the bat call you a fucking idiot, and I will tell you that either you get your shit together or you get the fuck out of my stream. Whereas you will find probably 99% of all other streamers, because they're much smarter than me. They're much smarter than me. They'll probably just ignore him. He's still a viewer. He's still potentially going to be there in the chat once in a while. He's still going to help you, watch an ad, and who knows, maybe he'll sub to you one day. Whereas I don't give a flying fuck about it. If you're coming into my stream and you're acting like a douche, I will 100% tell you that you're acting like a douche. So maybe that scares away a lot of people. Maybe that gives a bit of a wrong perception of what kind of guy I am. I tend to be, a likable guy. I've never heard any of my colleagues, I never heard any of my friends say anything bad about me, because I would never do anything to disrespect or be an annoyance to anyone. But if you're being an idiot towards me or towards one of my viewers or towards one of my mods, I don't hold back anymore. I would literally just tell you exactly how I feel about you. And sometimes I think that's very, very stupid. Sometimes I should just ignore it. I shouldn't pick the fight, and maybe it builds up too much of a negative stigma. And that's something I'm working with right now, in terms of what is the balance between being honest to yourself and telling that guy that is clearly a fucking idiot that he's a fucking idiot, and just letting the guy be an idiot on his own. That whole balance is hard for me to manage, and I think if I have to grow as a streamer, I have to master that balance much better.
Yeah, it's a very different discipline. Like kind of learning the threshold of tolerance and what you're willing to put up with. I've definitely, fallen over the edge a bunch with that. Like Twitch chat is
you learn a lot from it though, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, maybe not me so much, but I'm sure other people do. But look, there's been some specific instances that really are strange to me. So there was this one instance that it went to the front page of Reddit, and everyone was like, clutching pearls. I was like, oh God, look how bad this is. And I went into it, and you were in a game, and people were cheating in the game against you, and it was going to be a loss. There was no doubt about it. I think the other team had 2 cheaters, and even though you're a former pro, you can't work miracles. So you were basically sat in spawn and saying, listen, can we surrender, please? And there was a guy on your team saying, well, I refuse to surrender. because I want your stream to be bad. Essentially, I want your audience to suffer through this awful game, and I'm not going to surrender until we get 16-0'd or whatever. And so you TK'd him, right, and said you're a fucking idiot. And it seemed to me the takeaway wasn't, oh, look, there's cheaters. Oh, look, there's an arsehole ruining someone's stream because he knows who the player is. It was you TKing someone once in a meaningless game that was destined to be a loss that everybody wanted to surrender. Not just you, everyone else on the team, apart from this one asshole. Yeah. So how do you come out of that situation as the bad guy? Like, it's mind-blowing to me. Like, it really is. Like, I think people, like, it's almost as if those guys you talk about from your Twitch chat went and they were the guys that made that thread and drove that discussion, because it has no basis in reality.
No, I have no idea. I wouldn't even be surprised if that was the case. You know, sometimes you do feel like it's a very small group, selective few people who are just gonna do everything they can in their power to make you look bad. The way you described it right here is spot on. You know, one thing that is worth to mention is that one guy crashed or something, so you needed everyone to agree to the surrender, right? And this one guy didn't want to do it. And as you said, I even asked him politely the first time around, can we please surrender? And he said no, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, dude, are you kidding me? And I went into the discussion with him, right? And at a certain point, I was just like, you're too much, you know? And then I killed him. Yeah. And I guess the reason it blew up was because I got a grief ban, right? Obviously, when you do stuff like that, you risk getting banned. And that is, I guess, essentially fair enough. You know, it could have been a different situation. It could have been me. I was the asshole, you know, I team killed my mate twice, and that's fair enough. You get a ban for that. But if you just look, as you said, just take a tiny look into the context of what happened. I cannot grasp at all that I ended up looking bad in that one. And that was probably the moment when I realized that being a streamer is fun. It's all great. You know, I enjoy it 95% of the time, I would say. It's obviously like tough as fuck, you know, streaming every day and constantly have to be on. And even on a shit day, I wake up and I feel like I just don't want to be anywhere. I still have to turn up, smile, and entertain people. That's super, super rough mentally. But most of the time I enjoy it. But being a streamer and being under that pressure of never knowing whenever the fuck you can get screwed all over because someone is going to portray you as an idiot, even though that if you just take a tiny look into the context of the matter, then I can't believe that people just wouldn't straight up say, yeah, fuck you. You know, they're cheating. You're an idiot. And then Pimp, I understand, you know, you're a human being.
Yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing though. Like why, you know, like we've all played Counter-Strike. We've all played online games. We all know how rage-inducing they can be, right? Like we who hasn't smashed a keyboard or, you know, killed a teammate or flamed somebody and all? Like, if you haven't done these things, you're probably not human. It's really strange. So I don't understand where that recognition goes to when it comes to a thread about Pimp. It's just not there.
No, it's super, super weird. Another great example is that there was another post going to the front page of Reddit. It was a YouTube video of mine. I have an editor editing my YouTube videos, and I think it was a game where I killed like 48 people in a matchmaking game or something like that. And of course I had fun with it. And you know, I was running around and I was much, much better than the guys we were playing against. And this guy goes front page Reddit with a headline that says, how can anyone enjoy Pimp's content? Something along the lines of he's always playing against less skilled players than him, always talking about his smurfing, always talking about his 30 bombs, you know, how good he is. Well, in reality, he's not a pro anymore. How can he say he's that good? And he's not, you know, he's not really that good anymore, blah, blah, blah. But that was like sort of like the essence of it, right? How can anyone enjoy someone's content when he thinks he's so much better than everyone else? I never portray myself as being better than anyone else, you know. The YouTube videos, they sell on the fact that I'm killing 50 guys. My stream is built up around the hype, the excitement, and the happiness that I'm having a great game. What you don't see is that the game before that, I was shit. You know, I dropped 15 kills and I was pretty mad at myself for being bad. You know, you don't broadcast that to your YouTube channel. You don't make a highlight video of you being absolutely garbage, right? That's just not the way it works.
No.
Yet he portrayed it as it was always like that on my stream. I then went onto the comment and I said, first and foremost, I never smurf. I never go into a game with the intention to smurf. If I queue up with someone who's less skilled than I am, then it's probably viewers, because I want to give them the experience of having a great game and playing with me. If I'm going to get, and again, I can't do nothing right then. I'm playing with my viewers, trying to give them a good experience. Well, now you're a smurfer. Now you're always playing to face low-level opponents so you can look good. I play with people on Faceit that are lower ranks than me to give them the experience and a great little story to their friends that, hey, I played a game with or against Pimp today. Not my fault that they're level 6, 7, or 8, and I'm level 10. Yet I'm still being portrayed as a smurfer. I can do nothing right. I even went to that comment, or went into that thread, made a comment, and basically I felt it was a good response, basically tearing apart his whole statement and saying that half of what he was writing was basically false. He then went on to respond to me, yeah, well, I never really watched your stream. I only just saw the YouTube video.
Yeah, right. I don't even watch your stream. Yeah.
No, I don't even watch your stream.
Yeah.
Yet
don't even watch it, but I'm going to comment on it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yet you made a thread on Reddit. You felt it was important enough to make a thread on Reddit that said, how can anyone ever enjoy any of Pimp's content despite you fucking watching one YouTube video out of it? And that's it. And you could just see the comment, come down. And if I were reading a thread like that and I saw that the guy who made the thread said, well, I don't really watch you anyway, I would be like, dismiss, fuck that. I'm not going to spend time reading this shit. He's probably just an idiot. People still went on. People still, yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, you're right. I never would see a stream either, but you're probably right. And that's the mentality of Reddit that I cannot stand. And that's why I just stay out of it now. I'm like, it's not a secret that I think that the majority of the people who comments on Reddit and the majority of people who spends their days in there are probably a bunch of fools in my head. If you're a well-educated dude who are making a comment on something you know something about, then fair and square, go ahead. Reddit is a place for you. But if you're one of those idiots who are just making assumptions, who are making comments and stuff you don't know anything about, and by then, creating an environment to basically tear down streamers, tear down, players as well for that matter, or casters, I see a lot of stuff being written about my colleagues are just straight up false or straight up lies, and yet the comments still have 200 upvotes because it sounds good and it's probably true if you're saying so, right?
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I just can't stand it.
Do you think, like, say for example, in some of the clips that get used, where it'll be you playing in matchmaking or maybe on Faceit, and I've seen clips of you, and again, I think this is super tame, where you say like, listen, guys, like we're not communicating, and if we don't start communicating, and we've had like 12 rounds of this together, we're gonna fucking lose the game, and I don't want to lose. So can we just start communicating? Like, I don't think that it. I mean, I go off way worse than that, and I'm a grown man. I'm old, and still when I play like Dota, I'll go fucking insane. I'll go insane. Like I'll literally go insane because there's nothing more frustrating than a very basic concept falling on deaf ears. And you start out nice, and you say, hey, maybe next time could you call out? And then it gets a little bit, listen, I need to know how many people are there, and then it gets to the point where like, right, we're staring defeat in the fucking face. You're a fucking arsehole. You haven't called out anything significant all fucking game. Get your fucking head out. Like, you become exasperated. So I've never even seen you get as bad as me. But do you think because of your reputation, because you're a former pro, because you're an analyst, because essentially you're playing for fun, do you think there's maybe a part that should hold back and not offer the criticism to people you play with? Or do you think it's you're right and potentially valuable to the people who hear it?
I think that I would probably be smart to hold back. I think that would be the wise decision. If I want to make a shit ton of money, if I want to build up the biggest stream possible, I should just be Mr. Nice Guy. I should be a fake dude. I should be one of those dudes who basically not going to be myself on the stream. And I know for a fact that, like, I left Liquid, because I didn't find it fun anymore, because I didn't find it motivating anymore. If I start to do something like that, I will stop streaming within a few months. I don't want to do something that I don't do because I like it. The reason why I can stream 6-7 days a week, the reason why I had a period during the coronavirus where I streamed, I think I had 56 streams in 57 days, is because I liked it and I enjoyed it. So I don't want to do that. I think it'd be a wise thing to do, but I'm not going to. I think it's about the balance for me, where I have to be careful about the fights that I'm picking. And I think if I have to be truthful to you, I think in the beginning when that criticism started to occur, once in a while, it wasn't justified. It wasn't fair at all. I think I was being very nice, and I often started out being very polite and, guys, can we please try this? Can you please try this? Don't care if you're missing your shots. Just try to communicate and at least not ruin my experience of helping you to win the game, sort of. That was sort of like my mentality coming into it. But even that, even being nice guy back then gave me a lot of criticism. And I think I've grown into a place now where like I feel personally that it's, how do I say it? I feel personally that it's not even worth it starting out being nice. And that's when I lose, right? I should always start out with being nice. I should always start out with giving the guy next to my side, on my team, a fair shot of being, okay, you fucked up, but let's come back. Let's learn from this and move on. But I've gotten so frustrated with the fact that even if I do the right thing, it's not good enough for the Redditor. It's not good enough for the, the Twitch chat or HLTV, that I've just gotten into to be what I was basically being portrayed as in the beginning, which wasn't justified, to now where sometimes you can't see me just straight off the bat be freaking mad and just tell them, get your shit together, you motherfucking, or be a whiny little bitch sometimes. And I take that responsibility on me.
No.
But I also feel that it's definitely a product of the mentality that no matter what I do, no matter what I say, even if I'm the happiest guy on earth, I'm just, fucking around, killing 40 people in a game and smiling and really providing a great experience on the stream, there will always be 5-10 people that's going to make something bad out of that. And I have to come to a point where I just learn to ignore everything and just be me. And if people like me, they watch me. If they don't, they can go to hell. That's sort of like the mentality that I need to have, without constantly commenting on people going to hell, without constantly reminding them that they can close down the stream. Just ignore them if they don't like it. And at some point, if people get ignored, it's human nature to move on and find somewhere else to be annoying. So yeah, I think that's the balance I have to work on.
And I think it's like the real eye opener that streamers and live broadcasters and need to really understand is some people tune in because they hate you.
Yeah.
That's the catharsis for them. That's what they enjoy. They enjoy seeing somebody that they dislike and typing mean shit in the chat or, clipping things out of context. It's like the hate viewer is a very real phenomenon. And it's like a hobby for those guys. They'll follow you almost, I'd say even more religiously than your greatest fans. They want to see every time you fuck up, every time you make a mistake. And every time they can apply some pressure to you. That's pretty much how they live. And it's sort of like waking up to that fact, that, oh shit, like there's a percentage of my audience that actually fucking just straight out hate me. And that's the only reason they're here. I think once you get comfortable with that, the rest all kind of clicks into place.
I agree. And I think that's, as I said, I think that is my biggest weakness as a streamer. I think the day that I come to a point where I am able to ignore the 5-10% who, as you said, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be there ready for me to fuck up. And I'm a straight average guy with glasses playing Counter-Strike for 5 hours a day. I will fuck up once in a while. I will get mad. I will tell a guy that what he did, he shouldn't have done. And maybe I was wrong once in a while, the majority of the time. Of course, I should be right. I have 12 years of experience, but I'm not at a place where I put myself, I can't be wrong or I can't do nothing wrong, but I just want to be able to come to a point where I can do something wrong or where I can allow myself to make a mistake without having to deal with all the aftermath 24/7. And when I get to a point where I can just ignore those guys and don't let them affect me, I think I can go back to the happy guy I was when I began to stream. I was always so hyped up. I was always so happy. I was always in a very good mood. And I can feel that with the added stress from buying a place lately with now that I have, people expecting me to deliver, every time I stream, people expect you to have a certain amount of subs. And when for example, this month has been one of the roughest starts to a month ever in terms of acquiring new subs and donations. It like when it all builds up, I want to be able to have the mental capacity to say, fuck it, I'm going to work myself through it. And next month is probably going to be better. Whereas I'm more, today at least, I'm more, I have a shorter lease, so to speak, in order to deal with that stuff. And I want to get back to a point where I have a great amount of mental capacity in order to just say, fuck it. It's a tough month. It's a tough period. It's a tough day, whatever, move on and then do whatever you love to do the next day again. And when I learned to master that, when I learned to master the bad periods or the stressed periods as a streamer, I think that there's nothing that can stop me from being one of the greatest CSGO streamers out there. Nobody plays at the level I play at. Nobody engages with the chat the way I engage with the chat at. Nobody spends as much energy like sitting there yelling like a 12-year-old kid despite being 25 years old with glasses. I enjoy it a lot. I really do enjoy the time. I just need to remove that negative aspect of the stream that I'm experiencing right now.
Well, I'll say I don't know if people realize quite how big you've got, and I've already said there's a lack of dedicated CS streamers. Some of our biggest streamers have either moved on to other games or became like variety streamers. Guys like Shroud, Skadoodle, Hiko's obviously playing Valorant now. These were kind of like our big guys. Obviously, Simple, being like arguably the world's #1 player. When he turns on a stream, people will tune in, but he streams infrequently because a lot of the time he's training and practicing. Meanwhile, we've got you, and you're up to 278,000 followers, which is really big in CS terms, big in Twitch terms in general. You got a fuck ton of sponsors. Like you say, you got a big YouTube channel now where you like to put your highlights so people can criticize it. You got a fairly sizable community, a very large Discord. I think everything's going really, really well, and I agree with your assessment. I think you can be one of the biggest CS:GO streamers. If you keep on the course you're on. Are you ever worried that, I know, like it could all change, that maybe some of these haters could turn the community away from you?
Yeah. I think that's a big part of the stress factor I'm experiencing right now, and that's also why I'm being very honest with the fact that I think that's the biggest mistakes that I'm making. The fact that I'm turning into the guy that they want me to be portrayed as. I'm not that evil guy. I'm not that horrible person that is streaming, that is yelling, and that is smurfing and doing all that bad stuff they're trying to put out there. I've never been. I just don't want to turn into that guy because of the pressure they put on me. And I think that's what I'm so cautious about right now. That's what I'm so, I wouldn't say worried about, because I know myself that even if I get into a bad place, I'm gonna find a way to fight back. It's been like that my entire life, from being a very big guy, being overweight back in the days, to being bullied from when I was freaking 9 years old throughout my entire teenage years, to be the guy who was playing a lot of computer games in my high school, looking like I did. It's always been an uphill battle for me. So I'm not scared away by it, but I'm afraid that it will minimize the potential that I really have. I spent the last 12 years, doing nothing than playing Counter-Strike. My entire life has been surrounding Counter-Strike. When I was a player, I go to tournaments, I practice. I can never go to parties. I can never go to birthday parties. Can never go to a football practice, whatever. My entire life is basically surrounded around Counter-Strike. Moved on to be an analyst. I thought I would get some more time off. Turned out I traveled 240 days a year. Never had time to go to a birthday party. Couldn't play football. Couldn't play handball or whatever else sport I wanted to do. Couldn't really plan my life because one tournament would hire you, 7 days before you had to be in another part of the world. Moving on to being a streamer now. Now I have that freedom. I am playing a football match tonight, and I am looking so much forward to it. I am going to football practice, twice a week, and I'm looking forward to have, a life outside of Counter-Strike. And I don't want to lose that. So I'm scared that I'm in a place right now where I cannot uphold it, but I'm also very cautious and very rational about the fact that I'm only in this position because the past 90, 120 days I've been working like 7 days a week. I had a period where I clocked in, I think it was 111 hours of work, every week for 4 weeks straight, which is just super, super unhealthy. But that's what it took to build up the stream to where it is now. So now I kind of want to harvest the fruits, if you can say so, of all the hard work that I've done the past 10, 12 years, basically dedicating my life to Counter-Strike. And if I could have a stream now where I stream 5-6 hours a day, and I have a nice living, I earn the money that I need to earn in order to have a standard of life that I like, and then also be able to go to a birthday party, also be able to have a life outside of gaming. That's the dream for me, and I want to keep that. I want to keep that in front of me, and hopefully keep working on that. And then of course I'm always been competitive. So if I'm not the biggest streamer in CSGO out there, which I'm not right now, then you bet you I want to be that one day.
So, look, it's been great to catch up, brother. We're getting to the end of our time. So just one last question, I guess. Obviously, we know where we can find the stream and everything. That will be there. People will be able to see it in the description and whatnot. But what are you going to be doing in terms of, you know, getting back on the road, doing analysis, events? Do you have anything lined up? Where are people going to be able to see you next?
Well, you can see me every day, more or less, on the stream, both in good versions and bad versions, as you said. When it comes to the analysis, I've been working hard the past 3 years to become as good as I got at doing analysis. I think I'm like one of my strengths when it comes to doing analysis is, as I said, you know, I'm very, very straightforward. I'm very honest, and I think that I'm very easy to work to for the producers, for my colleagues. I don't try to make it a competition. I will do my absolute best to make the guy next to me shine just as much as me, if not even more. And I think I've worked up a lot of skills that I still wanna work on and build on. I think one of my biggest flaws as an analyst is still my accent. You know, my English pronunciation. It's gotten much better compared to when we did some of the first interviews together.
Well, you barely. I mean, you were just learning English at that point, mate. So yeah, that doesn't count. I don't think.
True. So yeah, I still want to work on those skills. So I don't want to stop doing analysis. I just don't want to travel 240 days a year. So I also, at least I visualize it as a thing where I'm a little bit more exclusive. You know, if you hire me to an event, I'm going to be at that event, and that's when you get to see me at certain events. So it becomes a little bit more exclusive. Instead of, you know, you have the Sponge, you had me, you had Maniac last year doing basically every single event out there, again, working 240 days. It gets boring, you know. I want to be at the events that I think are cool. I want to be at the Colognes. I want to be at the majors. I want to be at Katowice, the events that I've been doing the past couple of years. But then you won't see me at some of the smaller events, or you won't see me at, you know, DreamHack event number 4, 5, and 6. If I can pick just one DreamHack event and then put in 100% effort into that. So I don't have anything lined up right now, but I still think that I'm a very great prospect for basically all tournament organizers out there. Blast have been using me, ESL have been using me, DreamHack have been using me for the past 4 years, and I would like that to stay the same. They just don't get to use me as much as they probably would like to. So making it a more exclusive thing for the viewers and for DreamHack for that matter as well, will probably also make the product much better in the sense that I can prepare properly for an event, right? I can come home from an event and I can look forward, okay, in 2 months I have an event, so I can mentally prepare for that and be at 100% at the event, instead of going to an event, come back for 2 days, next one, come back for 2 days, next one. It's not a healthy work environment, and I don't think you get the best product out of it. So I look forward to become even better as an analyst in the next couple of years, but you won't get to see me 100 days a year, maybe just 50 or 60.
It's still a heavy workload. Well, look, brother, I'll let you go and start getting ready for football, and good luck with that. Don't break a leg, and good luck with the move as well. And there you have it, guys. That's the end of this interview. 1 hour with Pimp, one of the most misunderstood people in Counter-Strike, in my humble opinion. And hopefully this interview has given you some insight into who he is and what his thoughts are on certain topics. Thanks very much to him for his time. And if you enjoyed this interview, make sure that you give Rivalry CS a follow. Just click follow, click the bell, all of that stuff. I'll be doing more interviews like this one on this channel, and I will see you next time.